Welcome to Recovering Out Loud podcast. The opinions expressed here are those of the individuals and not of any organization. Let's do it. Tom, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. We're in a new venue here. I really appreciate too how, we're a lot alike in the sense that, we spent a lot of time setting this up and making sure it was all perfect. And it's just funny. Like as addicts, I feel like a lot of us, it has to be 100% perfect or it, you know what I mean? It has to be, there's no in the middle. There's no middle ground, right? We're very black and white thinkers. And I just appreciate that about you. So thanks for coming down. It's good to see you.
You too, buddy.
Yeah. Why don't you, let's do this. Why don't you start off with a little bit of your story, kind of what you were like, what happened, and what you're like now.
Sure, bud. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I was just a weird kid, I just couldn't figure people out. I just always kind of felt a bit on the outside, and like people they just bothered me, like I was not a popular kid. I was like turbo unpopular actually in elementary and junior high. And then at the end of junior high, someone made the mistake of inviting me and my weird friends to like a popular person party. And of course he was like in the bush in South Calgary. And I would have done fucking anything for people to just be like, yeah, me too. And someone's like, here, drink some peach coolers. And we were like on the side of this big hill, and I just grabbed it and I chugged it. And I was 14. I specifically remember we were walking up the hill and I just fell and started laughing. And I was like, this. I choose this like forever now. And I just couldn't wait to do it again. And the next time, we got some Mike's Hard a few weeks later. It was like summertime, and we were like, okay, we're gonna sleep on the trampoline, but we're also gonna go get drunk and do some property damage in the neighborhood. And so we did. And it was like me and like three friends or something. And we woke up the next day, and it's just like it was my first hangover. And everyone's like, oh, never doing that again. I was like, I feel so fucking cool right now. Like this is awesome. I was so sick, but I didn't puke. Which played into further along in my story. When I got to high school, all of a sudden, honestly, it was the late 90s. And like somehow over the summer, skateboarding got cool. And so I went from this one school in junior high where I was like, my nickname was Board Fag Tom. It was Calgary. It was not a tolerant place. And
not much PC culture.
Not much at all. And so I was the only kid from my school that went to a different high school. Everyone went to one, and I was the only kid that went to a different one. And I got there, and everybody was like skateboarding, and people liked me. And I was like, oh my God, this is like fucking Narnia to me. This is so great. And I started getting invited to parties. And then, of course, people started being like, oh man, you're so fun to drink with. That doomed me, because then all of a sudden, like, the popularity and the drinking, they were tied. There was no turning back for me. Also, it turns out I was an alcoholic. Yeah. And so it's all I wanted to do was like go out and find this perfect equilibrium of like how much booze, how many 40s can I drink mixed with how much weed can I smoke? And I coined the term, I'm perfectly fucked. And I did that all through high school. I got out of high school and moved to Vancouver to go to film school. And that's when I just turned it up, completely turned it up. Because all of a sudden I was like, I'm not living in this like party house in Calgary anymore. I'm living alone, and I couldn't wait to just drink alone. Yeah. I was 21 years old, and I was like, I can't wait to get off school, go home, watch Lost in 24, and just like drink by myself. I'm drinking scotch, I'm drinking beers. I'm going to school, I'm drinking at school. And then after that, I didn't really like Vancouver until I became a bike messenger in my mid 20s.
How'd you get into that?
Craigslist. I was working in the film industry at the time, and I was living with a girlfriend. I was like 23 or 24. And she was like, you need to get a fucking job because the film industry just kind of died.
Yeah.
And I found this job on Craigslist. And I went in and it was like Mad Max, it's like street punks all sitting on this slab, downtown Vancouver. And I was terrified because these are like the coolest looking fucking guys. They're all on fixed gear bikes. They look like, honestly, like Mad Max. and one of the first things I noticed was like, first of all, I'm getting paid to ride my bike around. That to me was like getting sponsored as a skateboarder or something, I'm just riding around and listening to my iPod. And then I noticed that everyone's drinking at work. And I remember saying like, what, you drinking beers? They're like, dude, we don't have a fucking boss. You just got a radio. Guys in like Burnaby or something dispatching you. He can't see you. He can't smell you. And that was it. I just started drinking at work. And the thing with being an alcoholic is that like, for me, progressions like that, you can't turn back from that, When you start waking up and drinking, there's no going back. There's no like dialing it back. You're like, oh, those are crazy times. It's going to escalate. Yeah. And so I did that, and then I ended up making a documentary about bike messengers. My co-director he had a penchant for ecstasy, so he shot tons of it, just like ripped on ecstasy. It's a very colorful film. and
everyone's so happy. I don't really know why, but yeah.
The thing is, it was all so good. There was no part of me that thought like I have a drinking problem. But eventually, I realized like, okay, I'm going out and I'm doing drugs every weekend, and I don't want to do that because it makes me sad.
Yeah.
And
that was like right in the time of like ecstasy and raves. And
exactly. And I lived in the downtown east side of Vancouver. And like it was just fucking hipster heaven back then, Yeah. And like we'd all worked at American Apparel, and it was I spent some of my 20s living in this like dilapidated 8,000 square foot warehouse.
Oh, wow.
Like no heat, no hot water, but I paid $250 a month for that. Like we had a half pipe in there. Like it was fucking awesome. Yeah. It was chaos. It was great. I lived there for 3 years, man. Wow. And then one day I remember I was like lying in the bath and I was like, fucking, how do I not do drugs every weekend? I was like, what if I quit drinking? And it had never occurred to me. It was like, what if I just quit drinking? Because then I don't want drugs if I'm not drinking. And so I was like, all right. So I just stopped. And I stopped for like fucking 5 weeks or something. I was like, this is great. I'm never going back. I feel awesome. And then I relapsed at my brother's wedding.
I remember this story.
And I was filming the wedding just as a fucking wedding gift, And then I deleted all the footage. And then
I'm sorry.
I'm in Ottawa. I lived in Vancouver. I flew to Ottawa for this. So I think I saw it. I was just trying to delete a clip and I deleted it.
That was before autosave, eh?
Oh, it still freaks me out.
Yeah, it's giving me anxiety.
And I'm like, oh dear God. That's a smart thing to do. Grab a bottle of fucking Jack Daniels and start chugging it. I'm crying. I'm losing my mind. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, somebody just give me some money. I'm going to go back to a hotel. I didn't go back to the hotel. I went and smoked crack with homeless people downtown.
Next best thing.
That was the smart thing to do. And then somehow I ended up back at the hotel room that I was sharing with my dad. I found out later, like a month and a half ago, that I actually punched him in the face. So he got amends recently for that. But then when I got back to Vancouver, I realized, okay, this is a problem. So I called up my buddy Noof, and he had a bit of sobriety, months or something, and he'd always been trying to get sober. And I was like, all right, take me to a meeting. And I started going to a few meetings, and things started getting good. And I got a job in Toronto. And so I flew out here and instantly was like, wow, I was working in advertising, and there's booze everywhere. And I was like, well, I got to get to know people. So I'm going to drink for a little bit, and then I can always go back. That's fine.
It wasn't that bad anyways.
No. Eventually, I realized I hate advertising. And so I went back and became a bike messenger again. So just right back into that life. And also, like, compared to Vancouver messengers, Toronto messengers, I was like, you guys are soft. It's like, I'm going to turn this party up. And
a lot less hills around here too, right?
So many less hills. And so I just fell back into it. And then I kept saying, all right, I'm going to quit drinking. And it was another 10 years before I finally got sober. And in those 10 years, the problem for me was when I decided that I was an alcoholic and that was a problem, ruined drinking for me. Yeah. Like it was done. Because then every time I drank, it was like, I'm doing something wrong. And I was bummed out. I was like, I can't believe I went to that fucking meeting for the first time. Like, I could have been happily drinking, but I always aspired to get sober. I was like, okay.
The seed was planted.
Exactly. But then also at the same time, like I started filming, I linked up with like a big band, like a big famous Canadian band. And I was touring around with them, making documentaries and stuff. And like, I was choosing jobs that, as a filmmaker, that it wasn't out of place for me to be drinking in the afternoon.
You kind of fit in.
Exactly. Yeah. And like,
normal.
I'd be sitting on the tour bus and we're in like Zurich or something. And they're like, I'm like, oh, time for beer. They're like, yeah, it's noon. Cool. They don't know I've already had 7 beers.
Yeah.
Right? And I've got like beer and drugs like hidden in my bunk and just holding on, you know. And then I started dating a coke dealing runway model. That checked 2 of my boxes right there, you know. And I was like, how do you say no? We became really good friends. And then I fell into the fashion industry. That's just filled with blow. And it was just a 6.5 year toxic relationship, you know. And we broke up and I moved out. I got this great apartment by myself, but she got all the friends. So I was just fucking sad and drinking by myself. And I remember one time, about 6 months before I got sober, I'm leaving the liquor store and I'm like, okay, I need to get sober and I need friends. I'm like, oh, I know where those are. All right. There are rooms filled with those people, you know? And so eventually at the very end, I had eliminated sleep. Like I wasn't sleeping. I was just staying up for days or weeks at a time. And then eventually I saw a friend, our buddy Julian. I saw him on Instagram and he just like looked sober. And
on Instagram, you saw
on Instagram.
Interesting.
And I just started going through and I saw a post that he said, he's like, yeah, I'm sober. And I messaged him. I was like, help me. I hadn't slept in like 4 days. And he was like, yeah, just come with me. And so I did. And then I went into this meeting and I was like, these are my people. It was the men's meeting, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, everyone's just joking and shit. And I was like, this is it. This is where I belong. And then I was like, one more bender. And I went out and I didn't sleep for 2 weeks.
Yikes.
And
were you hanging out with the shadow people at that point? Or?
Oh yeah, I was just like going bar to bar in my neighborhood, and then like the sun comes up, and I'm like, oh, my drug dealer's up, and so call him. Comes to my house, and another win, and I was like, I'll go for a week. You know, I can do a week without sleep. That's fine, which is ridiculous. And then I looked at the calendar. I was like, fuck, it's been like 9 days. I was like, all right, one more day. And by the end, I was like, I'm gonna have a heart attack. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. And actually that was the point too, where it was like, I was at my bottom. I was like, this is hopeless. I don't think I'll ever be able to get sober. And that was the first time that like suicide seemed like an option to me. And I had this clarity. I was like, no, that's it. So I woke up and I finally, took enough sleeping pills to fall asleep. And then I luckily woke up and I was like, all right, it's gotta be like 2 days till that meeting or something. It was in like 6 hours. I was like, shit. And I dragged myself back to that meeting and I've been sober ever since. So I've been sober for 29 months, so almost 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Nice. Dude. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a lot there that I feel my body, like, one, getting excited. Yeah. And then 2, relate, like, just, like, I know how that feels. A lot of the no sleep thing, man. That was like coke mainly, or were you doing all sorts of other stimulants and stuff?
No, it was coke. Yeah. I had one time where I tried to fall asleep, and so my ex-girlfriend gave me a Xanax, and I lost a day.
You just forgot, right?
Fucking
blacked out.
Yeah. Apparently, I was not a nice person. I was like running from party to party, and I was like, everyone's trying to kill me or something like that.
No, benzos are scary, man.
Yeah.
I had a tough run with them, and people around me would always, and I don't remember this. One of the things I read about benzos is what they make you do is one of the side effects is you have this sort of false feeling of sobriety. It makes you feel more sober than you actually are. Yeah. And I have videos of myself.
So
it's like, it's so dangerous, right? Yeah. Because you get in the car and you do all sorts of things, right? That you think you could do. You show up to family events. People would tell me after, they'd be like, you were slurring your words the whole time.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I don't know, I wasn't. I don't remember that at all.
It's I remember Homer Simpson idea of what the last night looked like.
Yeah. I went for lunch with one of my friends, and it was like the middle of the day. And I just remember, a couple months later when he felt comfortable to tell me without me punching him in the face or whatever, or calling him an idiot. He's like, yeah, dude, you were slurring your words the whole day, and I'm pretty sure you went to work that day. And like, I don't even know. And I'm like, oh man, what did I do?
That's tough.
And then you get those thoughts of, what did I do? do I have an apology, right? The other thing I was going to ask you too is, you know, at any point, was there somebody in your life that was like, Tom, you need to get help?
Yeah, my family. Yeah.
What did that look like?
Because they knew that I was always trying to get sober, right? Like, and so every time I called them, I'd be like, yeah, I got a little bit of sobriety, you know, whatever. And then they knew when I'd fall off, and they'd be like, how's the quitting drinking? I'm like, you can't ask me that. You know, like, this is my journey.
Yeah,
you know?
my journey.
You're not helping. My mom would like send me an article about like the benefits of sobriety. Yeah, like, get out of my life, Mom. I'm like 38.
Yeah, you're coming up with like all these reasons why articles.
I told you, stay out of my room.
You don't understand.
You don't understand. It's a generational thing.
Yeah. Everyone's doing it.
Meanwhile, like my sister's got like this beautiful life with kids. My brother's like working for the fucking government. He's like a foreign diplomat. And I'm just running around with fucking sociopaths.
I can relate to that too. It's like being the black sheep of the family. My sister
totally.
was a doctor.
Yeah.
And my whole life I compared myself to her, and I thought my parents were comparing me to her, but they weren't. Right?
And it's also like, it's funny because like at the beginning when I was drinking, like my brother-in-law and stuff, like he always kind of looked at me, he's like, all right, tell me some of your crazy stories. You know, and then by the end, he's like, what are you doing at my house? It's like, oh, you're drinking more of my booze.
That shift is funny though. Eh?
Yeah, it is. And then I realized, you know, especially by the end, it was like, oh yeah, of course they had to cut me out of their life. I was such a liability. Like they can't have me around, you know? And now it's great, like getting sober. She tells their kids, you know, they're teenagers. Like, look at Uncle Tommy. He's an inspiring cautionary tale. Man, okay.
That in of itself is such a good reason to get sober. One of the benefits, people want you around, but people also look to you as a role model. Like I never had that until I got sober, man. And, you know, I was at a meeting the other day, and somebody, we were doing a reading or something, and it mentioned that the guy in the story, all he wanted was to just be a respectable, useful member of society.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I want today.
Yeah.
I just want to be useful again. And I don't want people to, you know, liability, like you said, I don't want people to be, oh, what's he up to now? What's he going to do now? Right? What are you going to steal from me now, Anthony? Like
by the end of my drinking, it was like when someone would invite me out, I'd be like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Really?
You got the right number here.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
You got the right Tom?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, we like having you around. I'm like, is this an intervention?
Yeah. You got to double check.
I'm like walking in, I'm like, looking for family members.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, okay, we're just drinking.
Around the corners and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, nobody ever really intervened on me. Everyone was really happy. But also at the same time, it's like you got sober, and I had done it enough times and failed every 100% of the time that like it took a while for people to be like, all right, I think he's doing it.
Right.
I think this is taking.
This time's going to stick.
And also for me, it's, you know, I had amends to make to people, but I waited a long time to do it, you know, like about kind of broaching the subjects with people because I wanted to give it enough time that people knew I was taking it seriously, you know, and now a few years in, people, you can just see it. They trust that, like, yeah, I'm not. They don't have to fucking walk on tippy toes around.
On eggshells.
You know? It's life's easier. That's the one thing about like alcoholism and drug use is like, fuck, it's a lot of work. It is so much work. I've never put any amount of effort into anything in my life as I did to producing my alcoholism and my drug addiction. Like
feeding it. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's so much timing and scheduling involved, right?
Premeditation.
Like, yeah. And like I hear a lot of people like, yeah, I was hiding booze everywhere. I'm like, well, I never had to do that because anybody who I was going to have in my life, like I was so comfortable with telling people, they're like, you drink a lot. I'm like, yeah, I'm a drinker. What are you going to do? You know, like I work in the arts. It's part of my process.
Yeah. If you don't like it, get out. Right?
So many people.
Part of my process. Yeah.
I had this one tour manager who like manages a tour for a band. Like they got a crazy job. This guy was in recovery. He was like 5 years sober, watching me run around like a maniac. He knew exactly what was going on. And he'd be like, stop drinking all the band's booze. And I'm like, it's part of my process. Why do you have beer stashed all around the show? It's an hour-long show. Like, why is there a beer there? It's like, well, because then when I shoot over there, chug beer. Chug beer.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like an obstacle course.
And
the obstacles.
He and I have become friends since. We hated each other back then. And he was like, I'm so surprised you survived. He was like, I was watching how much you were drinking and everything, and like, you didn't fuck anything up. I was like, that's how much effort I was putting into maintaining my my alcoholism,
And this
I saw
image.
other people who were making all these mistakes in their lives, and I always made note of it. I'm like, don't do that, and then I can keep drinking, And so, going back, it's like I didn't make a lot of crazy mistakes. It's kind of like I said this to a friend recently. It's like getting sober and everything. It's kind of like in the action movie, like Indiana Jones, where it's like got to run and then the door's closing and just barely makes it and reaches and grabs the hat, And it's like, oh, geez, like that's what I feel like getting sober was for me. Like I got out reasonably unscathed, like my liver was damaged. My heart was in a bad spot. I was about to totally blow my life up, and getting out of it like 6 months later I had a clean bill of health, and I hadn't burned too many bridges, So I got out at the right time.
I mean, as you're saying that, that's a good metaphor, and I totally relate to that. I always think about too is like if we were to reshoot that scene, I don't know what would happen.
No,
right? My arm might get caught in the door.
Yeah,
my neck might get caught. I might bring my family in with me. You know what I mean? Like totally. It's so unpredictable. I know generally what's going to happen if I relapse again.
Yeah, but
I really don't know the outcome.
No,
because I proved to myself so many times, trying new drugs, hanging out with new people that I normally wouldn't hang out with.
It's absolutely. Like one thing I do is like I especially early on, I play the tape forward. Okay, I'm thinking about this. All right, what's going to happen if I have a drink? Okay, I'm instantly going to go get a box of wine, probably 3, go to a drug dealer's house, and then stay up for how long? And I had a guy who had like 30 years sobriety. He's like, don't play the tape forward a day or a week. Do a month and a year. And it pretty quickly made me realize, like, if I go back out, I think I'm just going to die. I think I'll be dead in weeks, because the idea of going back would be so monumental. Like I'd start thinking, fuck, I got to do all this shit again. But also, the benefit of that to me is that no part of me thinks that I can have a drink. No part of it eliminated this whole kind of avenue of my alcoholism to kind of creep back in. Because you hear that from so many people. They say, I thought I could manage it. I thought I could just have one and be okay. Zero part of me thinks that that's possible. And so if I were to relapse, it would be because it'd be like, I would have I guess chosen that I'm going to burn my life to the ground, and all it would take is one drink for me, and I'd be off to the races, because I'm an alcoholic, and I have been since I was born. At my first summer, I went and visited my mom out in Nova Scotia, and we're driving along, and I said, "Is a lot of alcoholism in the family?" And she was like, "No, well, your grandpa and all of his brothers and your uncles and everybody." I was like, that provided me with a lot of comfort, knowing that, like, look, man, this is who I am. It's not like it was a moral failing. It's like, I said to my sister a while ago, she took me out to go see Nate Bargatze, just across the street here, and she likes me telling her about what it's like and stuff. And I said, the only way I wouldn't have ended up in recovery is if I never had a drink. Like, it was just a process, and I was going to end up here. Either end up sober or dead. That's it. There was no dialing it back. And I see other people who are like, well, yeah, I had a kid and then I was able to dial it back. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that would just ruin the kid. That's the direction I was going in life. Like, I didn't give a shit about what was going on around me. Like, it's not just the booze and the drugs. I like the chaos.
Yeah, me too, man.
I woke up every single day being like, I wonder if today's going to be not the best day of my life, the craziest. Yeah, because crazy was good to me.
Yeah. You know what I realized too, and as you say that, I resonate a lot with that. I realized this past time when I was in rehab again, I crave chaos because I want to distract myself from how I feel about me.
Yeah.
I'm like so uncomfortable with myself as a default that it's just the way I'm wired, I think.
Yep.
That any chaos in my life just brings distraction to poor me. I'm shitty. I'm a terrible person. And I'll just blow it up. And I do it now with, with other things like buying stuff or other addictions that I have to keep in check too, right? Because this kind of like ordinary lifestyle that is good in retrospect. Like, it is a good life to have an ordinary life today. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
but there's times where it's like, I'm bored. And it's like, no, you're not.
This is the thing. It happens to be, especially because we're moving into summer, into spring now. It's like, for some reason, the change in the seasons always hits me hard. And I was riding my bike. It was a nice day, like 2-3 weeks ago. I'm riding around and I'm like, fucking, is my life boring? And I, realize this happens to me all the time. And I was like, I've got a hard time distinguishing lack of chaos from boredom, just because I'm not going like this all the time doesn't mean my life is boring. And I have to remind myself, my life is pleasant. It is very easy. I'm a freelancer, so I barely have to work. Like, I used to have to work all the time because I've saved over $60,000 in the last 2.5 years. Like, I got that little counter, And so now I'm like, oh, what's going on, man? I'm not getting any work. He's like, oh, I don't have to work. If I want something nice, I'll go shoot something or whatever. But right now it's like, bills are paid, credit score is fine. I can just, maybe I'll watch 2 movies in the afternoon. That's fine.
Do what I like.
My big addiction that I transferred over, just Candy Crush.
Is that game still around?
Oh, it is, buddy.
I remember that.
I'm almost on level 12,000.
Does it ever end?
Fucking hope not.
So it's like a journey, not a destination.
It better not, man. Because if that happens, I'm going to burn someone's office down.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's a great story, man. If you were to say, like, as of right now, because this probably changes, but what is one of the great or the greatest gift that sobriety has given you? What would you say?
Me, it brought me back. Like, my sponsor said to me recently, and I'd never heard this, it's like, recovery is just, you're recovering yourself. You're recovering an old version of yourself. And I had a big, getting sober, I thought so lowly of myself. And I was like, I was such a piece of shit that I was like, what if I get sober and the dude that I turn into sucks? Yeah. And then I realized, a big part of my recovery is helping other people. That is such a win-win for me. Like, okay, what keeps me sober? Being nice to other people. Who wins from that? Everyone. And so the more that I was helping other people, I was like, oh shit, I'm actually turning into the person that I always aspired to be while I was drinking. And so the best thing that's happened is that, like, I like who I am. Yeah. I genuinely do. And it didn't take that long. It took like maybe 8 months before I realized, like, I said to myself, I was walking up to my apartment after I just had a long walk with this girl who was trying to get sober. And I said, I like who I am. And it occurred to me, I haven't been able to honestly say that about myself in decades. And I would say, a big part of being fucked up, and like, especially with cocaine and stuff, I'm looking in the mirror like, you're the fucking best, man. Look at you. Yeah. Your hair looks great. Yeah. This is great. Look at this shirt. You're fucking killing it, buddy.
I'm great.
This lies. You're not killing it. You're killing things.
You're killing yourself.
Right? Yeah. You're killing it, but not really killing it. And when I got sober, I realized, like, oh no, I like who I am, and people look up to me now. I can help other people who are trying to get sober, and all those things, empathy, selflessness, all those things. That was like, when I was drinking, I'd look at other people and be like, he's got a fucking ulterior motive. Yeah, everything's transactional. Yeah. And now it's just not, like, they say, living life on life's terms, and like, life's fine. It's pleasant. It's pretty good. Also, like, I really like sobriety. I really do. I've been an optimist my whole life. It almost killed me because while everything's burning around me, I'm just like, this is good. Yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah. It's like that meme of that dog.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
It's just everything's on fire around him, and he's like, this is fine. That was decades of my life. And early on, I had a friend who said, as my buddy Noof, he said, look, there are 2 ways to get sober. It's like, fucking get a sponsor, go to meetings and stuff, and like, you're gonna get sober, okay? If you do the work, you're gonna get sober, or you can do it all with a big fucking smile on your face. And it brings me back to this quote. I can't remember who originally said it, but it said, my dad told me years ago, he said, look, optimists and pessimists die the same, but they live very differently. Huh. And I've always been an optimistic person. I made a decision in my late teens that said, I'm just gonna be happy. And I was happy, even when I was drinking, even when I was like at my lowest, I was still happy because it was a state of mind to me. I just wasn't the kind of happy that I wanted. And then getting sober, there's a lot of questions. It's like, am I happy? What am I?
What is happy?
Is my name even Tom? What's
yeah.
And then And then I realized, oh shit, I can be happy, you know, because getting away from that obsession of booze and drugs, that it's like you realize you've been dragging around a ball and chain, and all of a sudden someone snaps that thing off your ankle, and I was like, oh shit, I can do anything I want with my life.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't have to be dictated by like,
Substance.
is there booze and drugs?
Yeah.
You know, I started listening to a lot more like fucking EDM music. I was like, I think I'm gonna go to some EDM festivals.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go see Tomorrowland or
Nice.
something. Like, I think I'm gonna go on like a sober pilgrimage almost.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you been to any shows like that sober?
no.
Oh, I've been to tons. It's a good time.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to just doing kind of stuff like that. Also, like, I started drinking heavily when I was like 15, 16 years old. And when I got sober, first of all, I was like, what the fuck, man? I'm 39? Like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
But also, you know, I started moisturizing and stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I still look pretty good. And then I realized, oh, I feel like I'm 16 years old again. Like, there was no progress for me, really, emotionally, spiritually, anything, in those 25 years of drinking.
Yeah.
And so when I got out, I was like, it was like, you're worried about turning 40? I just turned 40. I was like, I love my 40s. This is great. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning every day, and I felt like a kid again. And those are, you know, every day I get these constant just kind of gifts of sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned, you know, you said something. You said, I'm not sure if I'm going to like the person I'm going to turn into. And what I've realized is we don't turn into anything. And you alluded to this. We don't turn into anything new. We rediscover who we actually are.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've heard it said before, you come into sobriety, you come into recovery, and the kind of goal is like peeling back the layers of the onion, right? Every day that you do something towards your recovery, something positive, helping someone else, doing the next right thing, staying sober, taking a new guy, you know, to a meeting or whatever. It's like another layer just gets peeled back.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh, I kind of like this guy. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, like, it's the speed of the peeling, you know, like, I look at my recovery as momentum, you know, like, it's like when I was drinking and using drugs, I was like literally sinking. I was in fucking quicksand.
Yeah.
Down. I got sober, and it's like, oh, okay, you're back up to ground level, but your legs have atrophied. You know,
now
like,
you got to rebuild the muscles.
yeah, you're fucking Neo getting out of the Matrix.
That's a great metaphor.
And all of a sudden I'm like, fucking, I don't know how to walk. And so I surrounded myself with other alcoholics, and they're like, I had done everything in my life drunk. I woke up and I drank, and I did that for a long time. Like, before I had to go into a fucking meeting at an advertising agency or something, I would chug a bottle of wine because that got me normal.
It was your medicine. It was our medicine.
Exactly. And so I had to relearn how to do everything in my life, including have a conversation. I had to learn how to smoke a cigarette. I had to learn how to go out and eat a meal, you know, all of these things. And as I did that, it's like I learned how to walk. And then I started learning how to fucking jog a little bit. And then now I look at like everything in my sobriety is little speed boosts. Doing this is a speed boost for me. Yeah. And this will get me going for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
Tomorrow I'll do something else.
Exactly.
Give me a little speed boost. Because I think about, you know, I'm a bike messenger. I ride my bike everywhere. It's like, I will never stop at a stop sign. I will slow down and I'll look and I'll keep going. It's called an Idaho stop. Because if I stop, it's so hard to start going again. But if you keep a little bit of momentum, it's easy to keep going. If I fucking am by myself in my apartment for 5 days or a week and I don't go to a meeting and I don't talk to anybody, it is so hard to start going again. Yeah. And so as long as I keep my speed up, then I can directly correlate when I am working a good sober program to how happy I am, which also helps me out a lot in that if I feel that I'm fucked up in my head, I'm like, what's wrong with me this week? And I'm like, I know how to fix it. I know exactly how to fix it. It's do stuff like this. It's go to a meeting. It's just fucking go on a bike ride with someone in recovery. It's whatever. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, yep, that was it, you know? And to me, that's just win-win, you know?
I mean, there's so many little things. This one day at a time theme is coming up in my mind right now. It's kind of like sales. I think of it when you're in the sales industry. You know, often the phrase is like, "What have you done lately? What have you sold? What have you done for me lately?" Yesterday's sobriety doesn't keep well, right? Mm-hmm. It's like vegetables or fruit or eggs.
Yeah.
Like you got to keep renewing it every day.
That's good. You got to clean out that crisper.
Yeah, because like yesterday's sobriety is not going to do shit for me today.
No, it's not.
I have to start over again, and that's not a monotonous like major hill to climb. It's just a one step at a time.
Yeah, it really is like, to me. You get in and there's all these slogans like one day at a time, and works if you work it, turn it over, all that shit. And to me, the only thing in my head was like, I can't believe I can never drink again for the rest of my life. And it was like, oh, that's what one day at a time is. A friend of mine said, look, man, the world record for fucking staying sober in a day is still 24 hours.
No one's beating it.
No one's beating it.
I've never heard that one.
He's like, just get to bed sober.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people.
Yeah.
I don't tell people one day at a time. I'm like, get to bed sober tonight. And what are the things between where you are right now in your day and bed? What do you have to do? What do you want to do? Can you handle those things? And then just get to bed. And every single day, especially early on, when I was still like counting my days, it didn't matter what I did in my life. Like, was I productive or not? No, I made it to bed sober. That's the most productive thing I've ever did in my entire life. That's it. And the little wins to me are gave me little speed boosts. Like I love how low of a bar we have set for ourselves. Like, I got a friend who he's like 5 months sober now, and he's like, dude, today I fucking cleaned my apartment and it made dinner. I'm like, that is so good for us.
Gold star.
That's what I like about hanging out with other alcoholics too. We're like, yes. Whereas someone else would be like, do you have a head injury or something?
Yeah.
How is that a thing? I've been doing that every day. It's like, you don't get it.
There's something wrong with this guy.
We've set the bar so low for ourselves that, like, when for me, I 39 and get it, I'm like, it's almost like getting plopped in like just a new country and be like, oh my God, you guys got apples here? This is cool.
Wicked.
And everyone's like, yeah, dude, we live here. And I'm like, yeah, but I've never been here before. Like, I've never been to this reality before. And those things are super exciting to me. And so when newer guys tell me that stuff, I'm like, fucking yes, dude. You should be excited about those things. Yeah. Anything that keeps you building self-confidence and like just excited, because like life can feel really boring at the beginning, and because we go from maximum excitement down to like, what am I doing with my life? It's like when you find little things like, oh shit, I can smell again. Like, yeah, dude, I can hold on to that.
Or I'm not blowing out chunks of flesh every morning.
I was talking to someone in the program who had the sniffles recently, and they're 8 years sober. And I was like, sniffles? She's like, no, my nose never recovered. And I'm like, me too.
Oh, wow. And I don't miss that. That was annoying as hell. People looking at you all the time.
Oh, geez.
I'm sick. I'm just sick. Yeah.
Oh, the amount of times that I had a food poisoning was so I couldn't make it in. Or, dude, remember that it's 5 a.m. You got to be somewhere at 8, and you still have booze and drugs. And you're like, I'm going to fall asleep. And you have to make that choice. Do I show up and risk my career, or literally do the responsible thing and not show up? Like, if you've gotten to the point where the responsible thing is to bail, you're not in a good place.
There might be a problem.
There might be a fucking issue with the things that you're doing. And there have been so many things that I've been looking forward to for months, days, weeks, whatever. And then I fuck it up the night before. And I end up just having to bail on it,
I mean, I vividly remember those nights of staring at the clock and negotiating with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, I can fit in one more and I'll get an hour of sleep and then I'll show up to work, and it's just insanity, man. And it's like, insanity. I should be sleeping, having dreams right now, not thinking about
I should have been in bed 9 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah, even that.
And then you hate yourself because you didn't make that choice. And for me, I could always put it back to one inflection point where it'd be like, you should just go to bed. And you're like, yeah. And then you get a case of the fuck-its. Like,
but that's no fun.
Fuck it.
I'm hanging a left. Yeah.
I'm hanging a left, exactly.
It's like
and you could always just like, well, I made this choice, so now I adapt. Like, I've got to sponsor you. We were laughing. He told me, he's like, there was one point where I was actually researching what life would be like after a liver transplant. And I said, I did the same thing. Instead of saying, maybe I should make some adjustments so I don't have to lose a major organ. I can say, well, what's life going to be like if I replace that organ? Like, that is psychotic.
Yeah, this is just how it is now.
This is how it is. This is who I am.
Like, it's so really
this is what's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And now, like, the absence of those decisions, I think about a lot. And I get that from talking to other people, doing stuff like this.
Yeah, right.
Remember when we had to fucking make this decision?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
That doesn't exist to us anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And
I did that all the time.
Oh,
right?
like
it's
it
like
is.
Whatever that thing is.
People don't understand how torturous it is being locked into addiction and alcoholism. Yeah. People are like, I don't understand. Like, why don't you just not drink? Be like, this is so many levels of suffering past anything you can comprehend. Yeah. You know, like every minute is a negotiation in your life. It's like, do I do this? How do I do this? Oh my God, I've got this amount of booze, but if I gotta go do that, then okay, can I chug this amount of booze and that'll last me until I can get that? Or do I hide it? Like, I'd be on my way to go do something and realize, fuck, there's no, like a shoot. I'm filming something. It's like, fuck, there's no whiskey in my bag. And I'm in a transport van and I'm like looking at LCDs. I'm like, fuck. And I remember like one time I was like, you got to stop, you stop there. Sorry, I got a stomach thing. And I run into the gas station, out the back door, sprint 3 blocks, get a bottle of whiskey, run back, and then get in the car. They're like, you okay? She's like, just sweaty, whatever. Yeah. Like, this is with people who, if they knew what I was doing, my career's over. And to me, it was like, I was ecstatic that I was able to get that bottle of Jameson.
It's like you get so used to living this double life that that's another reason why you don't know who you are anymore, because you're so used to this like altered reality of this secret life where you're like, I can't tell them. No. Like they won't understand. You know, they don't, and you know, most of the time people just want you to do well. I found.
I know
people want to help you, but you're so scared to ask for help. And that's why I always try to say, like on my, you know, you have a social media channel as well, Practically Sober, it's called, and there's a lot of, I just find that this market is like, it's so important for a lot of people that don't know about recovery, because for a long time I didn't know that sobriety was even possible. Yeah. Like I just thought that the rest of my life I was gonna somehow manage it and plan it and adapt. And like you said, I'll just get a new liver. And there's always like, you're just always adapting. It's insane. It's insane.
A big part of me was like, instead of looking into it, I was like, yeah, I'm sure there's answers somewhere. And I'll get there. Or if I'd make a little thing, be like, I'd look something up. I'd be like, hey, maybe that's an avenue I could do it. I'd be like, good for you, Tom.
Yeah, way to go.
Oh, I'm so proud of you that you're going to quit drinking soon.
Soon. Always soon. Tomorrow. Yeah.
I was constantly proud of myself that I was going to quit drinking. I'd be like, this is the last bender. Good for you, man. You deserve this.
Way to go.
And then the problem with me thinking that I was going to quit every like week or something was that it was always like, all right, this is one last time, you know, this is one last thing. Let's get a fucking bender tattoo this time or something. And when you think it's the last time, you do stupid shit. And And then I'd be like, all right, well, I did that. Luckily, I'm not doing that shit anymore. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, well, I'm not done yet. You know, let's be realistic here. I remember one time I was like, all right, I'm quitting on New Year's. But then I stayed up until the 3rd. And because I did that, I was like, well, it's not, this isn't pure. So I'll give myself another year. Yeah. And I said, I'll do another year. And then I was like, good for you. Just a full year to wrap up your affairs.
Yeah. Get everything in order.
Get everything in order. Exactly. And then I think it was another 3 years before I got sober.
And when you don't tell anyone about that stuff in the moment, it's the best idea ever. Right?
Everything's the best idea.
We talked about this yesterday. It's like, you're the only one in the audience. Like, yeah, do it. Yeah. Exactly. Way to go, Tom. Yeah. Well done. It's like, no, it's a terrible idea. I know. Tell someone else about it.
Yeah. There's people in the back of your head be like, nobody knows what he's going through. This is actually extremely heroic. Meanwhile, friends are just like, have you heard about Tom?
Yeah.
What's going on with him? Is he alive? Like, by the end, I think in my last few months, my dad did a safety check on me.
Oh yeah.
And because people hadn't heard from me for a few days. Safety check. And all of a sudden, I had just woken up from this bender. I'm just like wading through wine bottles, knocking my door. Tom? Oh, what the fuck? Dad, are you here? What's gonna, just making sure you're alive? I'm like, oh no. Oh, this feels like it went to the next level. I think I got sober like maybe a month after that or something.
I found out, and we find this stuff out after, right? And it hits so hard sometimes, but it's also like, I need to remember how people were around me. Because we often think that we're the only ones, we're only hurting ourselves. No. But realistically, we're like a tornado going through a home, right? And I found out recently that My wife was, for like probably a month or 2 months, was calling funeral homes, was calling police stations, and was calling
Looking for
hotels
you.
and hospitals
Yeah.
to look for me because I
Yeah.
wasn't coming home.
Yeah.
That just, I was like, oh my God.
I've had that before too.
I can't believe. So when you say safety check, it's like, yeah, you know, I've heard of people's moms going into their room to check if they're breathing. Like that shit, when I hear that from parents and loved ones, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's why I don't go back.
It's a funny thing because I always said to myself, well, my drinking, I thought it was manageable because I was like, I'm only hurting myself and not hurting anybody else. Because I looked at it like I was never a blackout drinker. And so now when I hear people like every time I drank, I black out, I'm like, how didn't you instantly get sober? Like that's just like, okay, let's have a drink and blindfold and like that's insane to me. And I was like, well, I was never like that. I was like looking at what other people were doing and be like, I'm not
the differences rather than the similarities.
I'm not going to do that shit. But then I got sober and everyone's like, really realizing the subtle psychological damage that you were doing to people was brutal. But also, I was lucky that everybody in my life was just like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. Like I took a step back from my like social group for a while. And then like about 7-8 months, I started hanging out with a buddy and this married couple. And we started going for bike rides. They're like, we like this guy way better. I was like, okay, good. That's good. You know, and now they're like two of my best friends.
Yeah.
And actually even that guy, he saw how happy I was. And he told me, he's like, dude, I quit drinking because you were so happy. I was like, what? He was like, well, I'm not an alcoholic, but he realized that his 2 to 3 drinks a night that he was having, like cocktails or whatever, he was like, it was ruining my life.
Yeah. I've heard that from many people.
Because he was like, I feel like I wasted the last 5 years because I was procrastinating everything. I had anxiety, all these. He just cut out this one thing that he didn't need and he didn't even really like. And he has skyrocketed since then.
Look, I mean, it's the consequences almost always outweigh the reward of it for most people. And I find that even with our society now, a lot of people are on the downslope, downstream of drinking and maybe not using. I don't know. But I mean, the addiction community is alive and well. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah,
I was
for sure.
hanging out with them 5 months ago, and
I don't ever want to go back there. It's scary. It's dark.
Yep.
It's meaningless. You know, there's a lot of fear. And
it's also an age thing too for me. Like I tried to get sober in my late 20s. I just wasn't done yet, you know?
Yeah.
And
it wasn't the time, right?
It wasn't the time. It just wasn't right. And part of me says, oh, look, think what your life would be like if you had gotten sober. What would your career be? And I always tell myself, dude, you could have gotten hit by a bus the next day.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I like to think of like, you know, try not to future trip. Oh shit, like what's going to happen in the future? Even more, don't past trip. Like if you're worried about what's going to happen in the future, there's some things you can do to fix your direction and stuff, you know? Like, yes, we have very little control over what's going to happen around us, but wishing that you had made different decisions, that serves zero
Such a waste of
purpose.
time.
Yeah, like I hear people say like, I feel like I'm where I need to be. And I'm like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be because it's the only place that you are.
This is the only one that's real.
Yeah, there's no separate, like, it's not a choose your own adventure. And then you can be like, ooh, you died there. Let's go back. No, it's like right now I'm here. This is pretty fine. You know, like I don't have a lot of money. That's fine. Whatever. I'm healthy. I got a hernia, but it's fine.
How do you get a hernia?
I have no idea.
It just showed up.
I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up with this. I'll ask you one more question. How do you deal with life, like hard times in your life? Because, I mean, we all have it. When we get sober, things don't just magically get better.
No, dude. Like I said in a meeting last week that it was an online meeting I've been going to since I was sober. And I said to them, I was like, you people with all of your years of sobriety complaining about life used to drive me nuts because I was sober. And I think like a lot of us, it was, there's only one problem in my life and it's booze and drugs. That's it. Absolutely. And as soon as I conquer that, life is going to be perfect. Yeah. And then I got sober and I was like, oh, life is still life. Life is absolutely still life. And the one thing I tell myself, and I got it from my buddy Noof, Noofy Mike. He always tells me, he's like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And that's what I do. Whenever I'm freaking out about something, whatever my day is, I pause and I'm like, where am I? I'm right here. Is this fine? It's fine. And it's going to be fine. And and the one thing I'm not going to do is drink. Like, I never want to drink when bad things happen. It's when good things happen.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I always seem to like direct a good fucking project on a Friday. A Friday, I finish my fucking rights, and I'm like, no, why don't we do this on Fridays? Because then I'm in a cab going home, and I'm looking around like, there's that energy, you know? So yeah, my one thing is just, I just say like, I'm not gonna drink today, and whatever's going on around me, that's gonna work itself out.
I'll deal with tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
I won't worry.
How about you? What's your?
Yeah. I like that a lot. You know, it's kind of like this mindfulness technique where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm feeling my pulse. Okay, I'm good. I'm upright with a pulse. When hard things happen, I'm recently, like, it changes, right? From time to time. And what I mean by that is I grow, you know, I'm constantly growing and finding out new strategies. I think the thing I'm thinking about the most, like when I call people, and I always talk about this, but if I'm really struggling and life is really tough, and it has been, you know, for the past 2 months, when I call somebody in recovery or someone that's even a loved one, and I just kind of bounce my problem off them, or not even that. Sometimes I do that, but if I just ask them how they're doing, I find that my perspective will just, you know, just all I need is like a moment in just a shift. Right. And
It's a release valve, man.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you what happened. And I always talk about perception and perspective. You know, this is a disease of perception. A lot of people say. I have these money problems. I have a lot of debt from my past vendors. A lot of debt.
I went bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm almost there. Like,
and you know what?
Doing anything to get out.
It's fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Right? You're alive. You know, you're approved, right? So I need to hear that. Thank you. But it was a bigger problem a week ago than it was now.
Oh yeah.
Like, what? Why is that?
Yeah.
The problem hasn't changed.
No.
So I was thinking, someone said that to me, and I was thinking about it. I was like, huh. It's how, and I know this, but you need to be reaffirmed sometimes. I needed to confirm in my mind, oh yeah, the problem's not going to go away by wishing it away.
No.
I have to change how I look at it, right? So it's like, okay, what can I do about this right now? Nothing. What can I do about it right in this moment? I can't solve it, but I can put money down slowly. I can not buy that thing on Amazon.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Little steps to take.
I heard something. I was listening to just something this morning, and a guy said, he was quoting another writer, but he said, like, the writer said, trauma is not real. And I was like, oh, that seems kind of dicey. And then he used the example. He said, look, the exact same thing could happen to two different people. And one person is like, they let it affect them like crazy. And the other person would be like, whatever, you know, like, it's just us. It's how we perceive it. And for me, just trying not to, I am capable of really making things bad. In my own head, we all are,
that story,
right? And so bouncing it off somebody, dude, that affirmation from other people, being like, oh, this is going to happen. I think my life's over. And they're like, yeah, but what if it's just not? I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. They're like, what if it doesn't matter? Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, a lot of things don't matter.
No, that's true.
They really don't. Yeah. And if time heals, dude, like, it really does. Like, I like the idea of, like, what do they say? A problem shared is a problem half, right? Yeah. And, like, you ever try to move a couch by yourself? You're fucked. You can't do it. You can't move a couch by yourself, you know? One other person, fine, you know? Like, you and I could move a couch 30 flights if we wanted to. One person, there's no chance. But just one other person, you can figure pretty much anything out. Yeah. And that's why, to me, like, thinking that I could get sober alone was, like, so stupid. Like, thinking I could think my way through it instead of just being like, hey, you did this, what do I do? And they're like, try this. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So it worked? Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at me. I was fucked. Now I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try it.
Yeah. I'll give it a shot. And of course, at the beginning of recovery, every time they told me something and it worked, I was like, you motherfuckers.
He was right.
This is bullshit.
John was right.
Because you have to realize, for me, I had to realize, oh shit, I was wrong about all this. And once I realized that I was wrong about how to get sober, my sponsor said, what if you're wrong about everything in your life?
What else are you wrong about?
I was like, you son of a bitch. Yeah. And then a few days later, I was like, what if I'm wrong about everything in my life? And I realized that once I admit that I maybe don't know, then and I stop digging my heels in on shit, then if I lift my heels up, then I open myself up to the answer.
It opens the door.
Because if I think, no, it's like this, and I keep trying something one way and it's failing, I'm like, no, I'm going to try harder.
Yeah.
Then it's like, yeah, what if you just try it like this? And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but my way was going to work.
Yeah.
I loosened it.
I loosened the jar. Yeah. Classic. Yeah. I always said that. All right, man. Fuck. Thanks so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me, man. This
appreciate
is
you,
great. What a great way to start my day.
Yeah, I love
this.
it, man. I appreciate you, and I'm happy that you came into my life. And
yeah, man, me too.
When I was at my lowest, you were still reaching out, so I appreciate
man.
you, man. Thank you. That's what we do here, right?
Yeah, brother.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Tom.
All right, man.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.